Alright, welcome back, everybody. This time we are doing Aetherochemical Research Facility. It's kind of a mouthful. So this is your first level 60 dungeon. This is the final dungeon of the Heavensward campaign. And there are quite a few mechanics on these bosses here, and of course I'll go over them as we get there. I really like the music of this dungeon. But I don't have the greatest memories from this dungeon simply because of the fact that back in the earlier days of Heavensward, this dungeon, you had to run it a lot for multiple reasons. But the biggest reason was for tombstones of, at the time it was tombstones of lore. Now you get poetics because of the workarounds they've done with tomes and whatnot. But this used to be a dungeon you basically do just to get tomes. Like, that was the only reason you ran this. You'd run it over and over and over, like dozens of times, just back to back, all the time. And your only reason for doing that was to get tomes. It used to be the quickest way to get tombstones. And it is still one of the fastest ways. I mean, every completion gives you 150, which is a lot. And if you're lucky enough to have a new person with you, you actually get an extra 100, so you get 250, which is an extremely large amount of tomes for one 20 to 25 minute dungeon, if everything goes well. So yeah, this is definitely a popular grind dungeon to do for tombstones. However, hunts also give a lot of tombstones, so it really just depends on what you'd like to do to get your tomes nowadays. But yeah, back in the earlier days of Heavensward, this was practically your only really quick tome grinding method. Do the dungeon over and over and over. So yeah, a lot of people have bad memories of this place because they've literally ran this dungeon over 100 times. So yeah, I mean, I've probably done it over 100 times myself, and I haven't even really done much grinding, so take that as you will. This dungeon is, it is somewhat annoying, especially if you're a caster, because some of the boss mechanics are absolutely punishing if you can't move around. Or basically, you can always move around, obviously, but you have to sacrifice DPS if you're a caster. If you're a melee DPS, you can go in there, do a little bit of damage, and then just run back away. And you know, we even have Hisatsu, Yatsen, and Gyutin, which help us with that. So for us, it's not going to be all that bad, but for the caster classes, it can really get annoying. It can really get annoying, because let's say there's a mechanic on the final boss that can target you, right? And you have to move out of it or you're going to take huge amounts of damage. And if you're a caster, you're going to have to interrupt your casts, and all of these targeted abilities like that just go off constantly throughout the entire fight. So there are times where it seems like you've gone 30 entire seconds and you've done almost no DPS. It can get pretty annoying, not gonna lie. I'm really not a fan of this dungeon as a caster, but as melee DPS, not all that bad. So if you're going to this as a samurai, you know, as a dragoon, a ninja, monk, it's not gonna be that bad. But if you're going to as a caster, especially if it's your first time, good luck. Even if it's not all that difficult, it's definitely frustrating at the very least. But anyway, enough of the negatives. This is a Aetherochemical Research Facility. As you can see, these beginning trash pools are nothing special. Just a couple enemies spawning out of those little, I don't know what to call them, honestly, but they were spawning over there in a couple different waves. Nothing major. Just working them down. Nice, I stood right in that one. So I'm actually joined today by two friends. Unfortunately, Cassie was not able to make it this time. But we have Rumor Tally, he's another good friend of mine, and also Moxie Dewdrop. Like I've said plenty of times before, it's always more fun to tackle dungeons and content with friends, at least in my opinion.
I will crush you underfoot.
So here's the first boss, Regula von Hydrus. This guy is a, he's one of the upper tier officers of the Imperial brigade or whoever is stationed over here in Aetherochemical. That's where this dungeon takes place. Where the dungeon is located, rather. He's got a couple mechanics. Right now he's not really doing much of anything. Alright, here's his first mechanic. He'll start rushing around the room and he's going to pop out a turret. And it's going to target one of your DPS randomly. And it's going to do constant damage per tick, as you can see. So definitely smart to go ahead and get your DPS on those and take it out ASAP. And then just go back to attacking the boss. He's going to rush around the room here in just a moment. Yep, there he goes. And there's another turret and it's targeting me this time. Just like the last one. Take it out. No big deal, just make sure your DPS is paying attention for that. Oh, he moved. Oh, now there's another turret. So this is Magitech Turret 2. It will target the other DPS, the one it didn't target the first time. So it targeted me with the first one, so it targeted Rumor with the second one. And it would be vice versa. Alright, so this is a conal AoE. All you have to do is get behind them. Pretty easy to dodge. Yeah, whenever you see him run to the center of the room, that's when you know he's going to use that. He always goes to the center of the room. Every time. So that's what you need to be looking out for. And yeah, that is regular Von Hydrus. Nothing too crazy. I'm going the wrong way. Alright, so in this dungeon, you actually don't get loot drops at all throughout the entirety of it. Instead, after each boss, you get tombstones. So as you can see there, I got 15 elegant tombstones of poetics. Like I said before, you used to get lore tombstones from this dungeon. So originally we would have gotten 15 tombstones of lore, but lore is actually non-obtainable. That's not the right page. Currency, here we go. So if you look right here, here's all the tombstones. So here's lore right here. Lore is actually not obtainable anymore. Ever since Stormblood released, all the way back in June of 2017, lore and scripture both were made unobtainable. So if you still have some in your inventory, you can keep them up until I think 4.2. They're going to remove them. But for right now, you still have them in your inventory, and you can go to Mordona and you can trade them in for poetics, because with each new patch they just extend the usability of poetics. So anything that used to take lore or scripture tomes now can be purchased with poetics tombstones. So anything that used to give lore or scripture, like I was saying, will just give you poetics now. So now the dungeon gives poetics instead of lore. Simple as that. Alright, so we could really be benefiting from some AoE action here, so let's get to work on that. This would actually be a really nice place for the level 70 skill, but obviously, since this is a level 60 dungeon, we do not have access to that. So I'm just not going to cover that. Probably going to get hit by this. Oh, maybe not. Getting a little lucky here. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's kind of hard to dodge. So yeah, as you can see, basically what you want to do here is focus down that bioculture node that's sitting here in the middle, because it spawns enemies. So you're going to want to take that down first, and then you can work out the other enemies here. Oh, what's going on here? Looks like I'm lagging a bit, maybe. Alright guys, I apologize for that. It looks like I was lagging out quite a bit there. Anyways, moving on to the second set here. It's basically more or less the exact same as the one we just did. There's another bioculture node. We want to take that out first and foremost. It's going to spawn, I believe, 2 waves of ads. It might be 3, but I think it's just 2. So yeah, basically just the exact same thing as the other one. I'm going to go ahead and use single target to get my 2 sends, and then I'm going to use Tank to Gokin. Alright. I there's a second wave. Getting a little chaotic in here again. Alright, bioculture node is down. Now we can move over to full AoE damage here. Get to a good position here. Yeah, try to dodge those purple circles that are on the ground. They will deal constant damage over time, and that's definitely not good. So just try to avoid that. Alright, so now we're heading on to the second boss of this dungeon, which is arguably the easiest boss. There's only really one mechanic, well I guess two mechanics you gotta watch out for. And neither of them are really that complicated, honestly. So we have Harmachis here. He's going to use a few different types of attacks. As you can see there, he used Weight of the Heart, and now he used a Serpent. And he has a few different forms, and each form he has its own unique abilities that he'll use. There you go, he was a Cobra, okay. Now he's back into Naga form. Here we go right here. So, Petrification. It's actually spelled Petrifaction, but I think that's just a typo. Because if you get hit by it, then it gives you the Petrification debuff. So just turn away from that. Don't be looking at the boss when the cast timer finishes. Pretty simple. Anti-Machina. This is the real mechanic you gotta watch out for here. So it's gonna target anyone, a random player other than the tank. And he's gonna do ballistic missile. You want to stack on them. If you don't stack on them, it will insta-kill the person it hits. So you really gotta watch out for that. So let's use some bloodbath here. Get a little bit of HP back. Second wind. And there's actually one other mechanic, but it looks like we might actually skip it because their DPS is high enough. Yep, we're gonna skip it. Nice. So there's another mechanic that he'll target one random player and bind them, and instead of shooting a missile, like the one that just happened back there, what will happen is he will put bind plus on you rather. And you only need one person to stack on them that time. That's the one that Moxie's talking about. So we didn't see that mechanic, unfortunately, but at least I can explain it to you there so you can know what to do if you see it. And on this elevator, we're going to have 3 ads, 2 monitoring drones, and then the facility dreadnought over there. Take out the drones first, then work on the dreadnought. Alright, on to the dreadnought. Yeah, they got that one, alright. And easy peasy. And we're on to the last section before the final boss. This has got a bit of an interesting section coming up here. Got some interesting platforming. Well, I say platforming, it's not like jumping around and all that, I just mean like the way the stage assimilates. So as you can see here, it's kind of a just a cluster of little islands. And as you go down the path here, they form into a path you can walk on. So you're going to have a Conjurer and a Thaumaturge. If it wasn't obvious already, you're going to want to take down the Conjurer first, because he can heal. There was trying to use Hisatsu Shinten again. Not high enough level for that. That is our level 62 skill, I believe. I'm used to using Shinten like pretty often because in the level 70 samurai rotation, you use it pretty much all the time on single target. It's very, very common. Oh, there was trying to use it again. But yeah, it's just habit. It's okay though. So yeah, just following the path. There's a couple more enemies here. They don't really have any major mechanics, just dodge their AoEs. And then the next segment, we're gonna have a little elevator here. Just ride that down to the next section. To the second section. I believe there's only 2 sections here. The second section is a little more complicated, but still nothing major. So right here we're going to have 2 thaumaturges and a conjurer. So just like last time, focus on that conjurer first. And then work on the 2 thaumaturges. Alright. So now he's going to spawn some cultured Shabti. I think that's how you pronounce that. I honestly don't know though, could be completely wrong. He's going to spawn a couple waves with these guys. Just take them out. They're just exactly the same as the previous ones we encountered. Just the occasional AoE, just dodge it, no big deal. So he's going to spawn 2 more, 1 on each side. Whoops, that was not the right button. Oh well. Alright, and done. So now we're going to be moving on to the final boss. And this boss is a bit special. Since I haven't really shown any of the actual main scenario cutscenes and whatnot, if you've only seen my videos, you're not going to know who these characters are. But if you've been through the A Realm Reborn storyline, and if you've been through the Heavensward storyline up until this point, you're going to know who these characters are. So basically we've got a 2-part boss fight here. 2 different segments. There's an A segment and a B segment, and you get tomes after each segment. So I'll be breaking them up as if they're 2 separate bosses. So right off the bat we have a tag team battle here with La Habrea and Igyorhim. This phase of the fight is actually pretty simple. You just have to dodge all the AoEs, but there are a lot of AoEs, as you'll see. So there's a lot of stuff to watch out for here. So right off the bat, let's put a Higginbana on there. Alright, so right off the bat, there's a AoE going across the arena like that. This dark circle here is friendly. That's our tank put that down. We can stand in that. There's another AoE across the room, and then now you have these puddles. You definitely do not want to stand in those. And then all of these AoEs to dodge. And then all of those AoEs. And then all of these AoEs. There's just AoEs constantly. Like I was saying earlier, it can get really complicated if you're a caster, because it seems like you just never have time to do any DPS. You're just going to have to dodge a lot. It's just how this first phase works. Alright, so we've done a good deal of damage to Igyorhim, so now we're on to La Habrea. He more or less does the same stuff. He's got a few unique mechanics, like, what's it called? It's like Shadow Orb or something. He'll use it in a... Oh crap, I did not mean to do that. Oh, that was not good. I accidentally focus targeted him for a second, and then I walked right into all the AoEs. Alright, so he's got Permafrost. You want to stand in the middle of the arena for that one for minimal damage, and then he puts ice around the entire arena. You're supposed to dodge the AoEs, but I walked right into it because I'm apparently really good at this game. So at this point, I just don't even try to do damage. I just try to dodge the mechanics. And eventually the ice will melt. Goes like that. And then you're good. Even more AoEs. So yeah, it's an AoE, it's a mess. But alright, that was phase 1. So as long as you can dodge the AoEs, there's really not a whole lot else to do there. Just dodge, 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 deal a bit of damage, dodge, dodge, you know. So now we're on to phase 2, which is Ascian Prime. This guy definitely has some mechanics you really have to pay attention to. He has less AoEs, which is good. It means you have more time to do damage. But there is more to watch out for in terms of a lot of damage hitting you all at once. Now we have Shadow Flare, that's just a room-wide AoE. Alright, so here's his first major mechanic. He's going to spawn a Fire Sphere and a Blizzard Sphere. You just want to focus these down as quickly as possible before they reach him, or it's going to buff his next attack. And while you're doing orbs, it's going to spawn these two area AoEs like this. As long as your party's standing inside the two people that are targeted with those abilities, you'll be fine. It's when you're inside the black area that you'll take a lot of damage, and that's obviously not good. So now, as you can see, there are 4 of these black void-looking portals around the arena. He's going to cast Universal Manipulation. So what you want to do is run inside of this before that cast time finishes, because it'll do that. And as you can see there, our tank over there got hit by it. He didn't get inside in time. And he got hit by a slew of debuffs. He had Paralyzed, he has Small, he has, what's that one called, where you can't use any abilities. Like, it really debuffs you. And when you're minimized like that, you do like 10% damage. Not 10% less damage, you do 10% of your maximum damage. It's a huge debuff. So, really don't want to get hit by that. My recommendation is to walk into the void portals there before the cast time is halfway finished, because if you wait any longer than that, sometimes it won't register that you're fully in there before he finishes casting, and things can go badly for you. So yeah, my recommendation, get inside of one before halfway through the cast bar. So basically, as soon as that cast bar starts, you need to be looking for one and start running over to it. Alright, I got that one, good. So this one has 2 waves of these orbs. Dodge them exactly the same way as the first set. Alright, so Tank's got that one. I'll take this one over here. Alright. Let's get in here. Looks like Rumor missed that one. He actually got in there, but he was a little too late. So like I was saying, sometimes it won't count. So now for the 3rd round here, we have orbs. And the way you take care of these is basically just draw them over to your tank, and your tank will just tank them for you. He'll run into them and mitigate the damage. To your tank, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage, but if you personally get hit by one, it's going to do quite a bit of damage. So you're going to want to watch out for that. So yeah, just sort of lead them there into your tank. Nothing major. And LB2 to finish it off. So yeah, that's Aetherochemical Research Facility. Definitely not the easiest dungeon in the list, but it's also not the hardest. Maybe on your first time it will be. It's like I said, it's kind of complicated for a first time going through it, and there's certainly a lot of AoEs on that last boss, just all over the place, all the time. So it can get confusing and complicated for sure. And of course, if you're actually doing the main scenario, after that dungeon, you immediately have a trial that comes right after that, which is my personal favorite trial in the game. It's Thornton. I really, really enjoy that. I might actually do a trial guide as well on my channel. That's something I'll need to think about. If you actually want to see something like that, maybe you leave it down in the comments, and I'll look into it. I actually do want to say real quick before I end this video though, I am planning on starting a 2nd dungeon series, but this time starting with a class from A Realm Reborn. So, you know, something like, I don't know, Lancer, or maybe Rogue, you know, any of those starter classes that you would actually start the game out as if you just started the game. And I'm going to cover every dungeon, every single one of them, all the way from Sastasha all the way to the final level 70 dungeon that's currently in the game. And by the time I get there on that character, there's going to be a few more dungeons than we even have right now, because 4.2 is coming out on January 30th. We're going to get 2 new dungeons there, and who knows, by the time I actually get around to getting that far in the dungeon lineup for that series, 4.3 very well might already be released, and we'll have even more dungeons. So the dungeon roster will always keep getting bigger, and I'm really excited for that. Really excited for 4.2 as a whole. But yeah, that was the end of the Heavensward leveling dungeons. So from here on out, we do have more Heavensward dungeons, but they aren't the leveling dungeons. They are the level 60 dungeons. So the 3.x series, starting with Neverreap. So we have from Neverreap down through Sohm Al Hard, and that is the full extent of the level 60 3.x dungeons post MSQ. So I hope you look forward to those. Personally, I'll go ahead and tell you now, some of these I don't remember very well, like Neverreap, Fractal Continuum, St. Mosion's Arboretum, especially those 3. I don't really remember those dungeons because they're so uncommon, but they are still possible to get through, like roulettes and whatnot, or if you just personally like the dungeon, of course you can just queue in whenever you want. So I'm definitely going to cover them, but I apologize right now if there are any inconsistencies with my with the mechanics I explained, because personally I don't even remember them myself, so I'm going to be figuring them out as we go. But from pretty much everything from the anti-tower down, I've got covered. I can tell you the mechanics on those. Hullbreaker Isle Hard maybe have some struggles with that one, but for the most part, it's not that bad. I've done most of these dungeons quite a few times, but just these first 3 I've only done a handful of times, and it's been a long time since I've even done them at that. So just thought I'd give you a warning there. Maybe use those videos less as a guide and more of a, oh hey, this is what this dungeon sort of looks like kind of thing. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure to mention that again as we cover those dungeons. So look forward in the coming weeks to see the 3.x dungeons. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.